I think we are live. Just let me make sure. Should be. Hold, please. Good. Okay, we are. Kristina, welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
Yes. How was your week? How is things? How is life? You were at band practice before this, weren't you?
Yes, we finally got a chance to jam, so that was pretty cool. It's been
Good.
a while. It's been actually like 4 or 5 months since we got together, so that was pretty fun.
Okay. Yeah. And you play piano and sing, right?
Yes, I do.
Amazing. You're a beautiful singer.
Thank you. Tell me that's awesome.
Of course. Cool. Well, let's get back into it then, I guess. So for those of you who are just tuning in, this is Kristina's part 3 of her interview about sobriety. We in the first one, we sort of went over her initial experiences with drinking, what like growing up with it was like, how different people were impressionable on drinking habits, and I think that applies to a lot of people. Your sort of drinking habits and the culture and respect you have for booze comes from your parents, your people around you, your friends, your older siblings, all that stuff, the school you go to, all that. So we discussed that in the first one. In the second one, we went over sort of how after high school and when Kristina was going into college, everything sort of took a turn for the worse, as people's, I would say, young people's relationships with drinking generally do, and how Kristina's story differed from a normal person's experience as it sort of devolved into addiction, and you hit your rock bottom with a trip to the hospital and people discovering that you weren't sober, and yeah, so that's sort of where we ended up. Where did you want to start talking? Where did you want to start today? Like right after that, or did
You know what? The whole turnaround happened the day after I left the hospital.
Okay.
So it was very quick. I think that after that horrific time, I kind of went into damage control mode really, really quickly.
Yeah.
I obviously didn't have a car, and I was starting a new job the next day, so I found this car rental app that I had never heard of. It was called Taro or something, and I got a car just to rent, and I went to my first day at work. I got my apartment, and I just did it. I just dodged head first into getting my shit together, excuse my language, and it was really quickly that it turned around, because I was so busy right after. I was working a brand new job. I was working at Woods Homes, which was very intense in itself, so I was very preoccupied with that.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I didn't touch a drink for about 33 months after that, so it just turned around really quickly.
Crazy.
I jumped kind of headfirst into helping other people. I worked at group homes, and then I worked with special needs individuals and autistic kids. I just kind of jumped headfirst into that, and it was a really good outlet for me, a good distraction, I guess, from my own situation, just to kind of focus on other people.
Yep. Very, and that's sort of, I think, just from sort of what you said, the two things that strike me as similar to my story is that one, your decision to become sober was like a light switch, where it was very much the same for me. It was just like, bing, okay, I'm done with this. Like, I do not want anything to do with this anymore. And I think for a lot of people that, like when you say rock bottom, that can be seen as a mega, like that's like your lowest low, but then that is like the catalyst for change, which is that sort of light switch feeling, and you're like, I'm so done. Like that just put in perspective very quickly that I have no reason to want to drink anymore.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I think especially with alcoholics, like people are definitely telling you prior to your light switch moment that you shouldn't be drinking.
Yeah.
You should not be drinking, but you cannot really internalize that until you yourself believe it.
Yep.
You know, alcoholics are really stubborn and they don't want to believe it because they love drinking, and it, just how socially prevalent it is. I couldn't even imagine having my life without alcohol. It was unfathomable to me, just because of how prevalent it was with everybody I hung around with. Every restaurant, it was too there all the time. And I surprised myself, actually, because I did it. I did what I thought I could never do.
Yep.
And it wasn't easy. It was definitely not easy. When I got sober, it was April of 2018.
Okay.
And obviously Stampede comes quite quickly after that.
Oh, right. And that would be your first big test, I guess, eh?
Yeah, because Stampede used to be my time to shine. Because everybody's drinking. I mean, no one really notices your problem drinking because everybody is problem drinking, right? It's just 10 days of alcoholism, essentially.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, it's like, people don't want to call you out for being drunk because they're just as drunk. And so they don't want to call that back on themselves.
It's just acceptable, right? To get blackout wasted and then, do that for 10 days straight. It's acceptable and it's
100%
normal.
Yeah.
So I was going into that, I was pretty scared. I just didn't know how much I could really trust myself and how much accountability I would hold for myself, because I could easily just sneak drinks, and do what I was doing. But I didn't. There was this voice in my head that, obviously the rock bottom experience was quite fresh. But it's really funny. Alcohol, people who have alcohol problems, it's quite a short amount of time for you to forget that, or forget how bad it was, and just want to go do it again. But this particular experience was quite traumatic for me, and it resonated and it stayed. So that was really helpful in avoiding the Stampede grounds. I went and ate funnel cake.
Yeah,
and
as you should.
Some fries with the cheese sauce, and I went on the rides, and I had a great time, but a wholesome, good fun. Stampede can actually be fun.
100%.
And just embrace the carnival aspect of it, right?
I think a lot of people, part of the reason that they struggle or are afraid of not drinking, I think there's a lot of people out there who do want to quit. A lot of people that are thinking about it or interested about it, probably a lot of people who watch these streams, who are either are sober or trying to be sober, or are very interested about it and want to be. But the thing that they are scared of is who they are without alcohol, or what an event is like without alcohol. Will it be fun? Will you be yourself? Will you enjoy it? Do you think people will think you're weird because you're not drinking or anything? And the answer to all of those is yes, it'll be okay. You will have more fun, I would say, comparatively. You spend less money, you remember everything, you make smarter decisions, and you have you're yourself, and you're happy that you're making these positive decisions, and you it's so freeing. For me, my first big test sort of thing was Steve Kohas's wedding, and I was the MC. And so, of course, massive nerves, but it was all of, Chuck, Steve, Reed, Mac, Nate, Lou, everybody, Trevor, and for me to not drink with those guys was obviously weird. And, there's always that pressure, but they were super respectful about it. And again, I think a lot of people think that if you have good friends and you have people who care about you in your life, they will support you through not drinking if they think you're serious about it. It's only the people who aren't really your friends and they're just your drinking buddies that will be you're such a loser, you used to be fun. So it was such a big test. And for me, it was I had all those thoughts, am I going to be the same guy? Am I going to be able to be funny and myself? And yes, I was everything and more. I went to bed at a normal time. I had good food. I woke up early. I felt great. Yeah. So
you really just surprise yourself in doing things that you never ever thought that you could do. Obviously, after the incident, I started getting really into music again. I started actually playing the piano and singing and getting together with the band, and we started playing gigs. Yeah. And I was really nervous about that because gigs are typically in bars, right? Yep. And I knew that it was going to be pretty crazy because the group that was coming, they're all big drinkers. And, you know, it was interesting. It was interesting to be on the stage and kind of watching the dynamic from a sober point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a whole different experience.
Totally.
And I have to tell you, waking up the next morning after that gig and just knowing exactly what I did, exactly who I was with, seeing videos of me singing well, actually, because let me tell you, me singing drunk was just an abomination.
And you don't think about it. You're just like, I don't give a fuck.
No!
Yeah.
And you sing it after and you're like, oh my God, please, no. It was horrible. But like I sang really well. And it was just so liberating to wake up and just know everything, remember everything.
Yep.
And I remember just thinking to myself, this is like bliss.
Yeah.
And serenity.
It's such a satisfying feeling. I can honestly say, you know, I've played a fair amount of shows as well that I've never played a show sober, so I have no idea what that would be like. I've never played a show blackout. Like, I would never get completely trashed before a show, but I've never played one sober. And like, you know, one of our constant gigs when we played weekly was they would give us, I think it was like $300 and then a flat of beer each. Yeah. So it was, you know, a lot of the times we were paid in drink tickets or booze or whatever. So it would be so weird to be on stage and be sober. But again, that's one of those things that you're just like, I could not imagine it without drinking. But if you just give it a shot, it's so rewarding. And I think that's where
I just got so into it, you know, like obviously the first couple of songs I was quite nervous, and I, you know, it did kind of go through my head like, oh, a drink would be really helpful right now, you know, just to kind of take the edge off. But as you got into it, like I got really comfortable. It was just really a really amazing experience, and I surprised myself immensely with that triumph. Yeah,
it's like have you seen the movie Soul, that Pixar movie about the jazz musicians?
Oh, yes.
And he's like where they show what happens when you get in the zone as like a musician and you just sort of lose yourself in that, and it's true. Yeah, 100%. It's so cool. So, and I was the same sort of way. Like, you know, one thing that my biggest advice to people who are trying to be sober, I even think I told this to you when you were first trying to get sober, is like, fill your life with things that you can't do when you're drunk, or you can't do when you're hungover, or you can't do unless you're sober. And for you, it was like playing amazing music and like relearning like piano and singing and doing it well and playing shows. And, you know, for me, it was fitness. But you just dive into it so hard because you're like, I have the time, I have the motivation, I feel so good about it. So. Yeah, it's true. And I remember you telling me that, because I reached out to you when I was still, you know, in the shit, and you did say that to me. You're like, just, you need to fill up your days with stuff that you're passionate about and that you cannot do drunk. And I was like, what does that even mean? You can do anything drunk.
I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't ready to hear it yet, but now I understand completely what you were saying. I just needed some time. It's
the first thing I tell everybody who sort of asks, because I have, you know, a decent amount of people, especially now, like reaching out to just like, hey, I'm interested in quitting and this and that. Some people are more serious, some people are less serious. I think some people, it's just like they want to do it, but they don't really want to do it. They just want to talk about it. So, but anyways, the first thing I say always is, fill your life with positive things that you can't do, and if you and just try it. You know, that's my one wish is that everybody would, you know, give 3 months sobriety a try, just to see what it's like and how insanely beneficial it is to your body and your mind and your personal relationships and your wallet and everything. And if it's not for you, and you can do all of the things you can sober while still having a relationship with alcohol, then like frickin' power to you. But I don't think that there is a single person in the world that could not have more opportunities and be better at what they love doing if they were sober 100% of the time. John Mayer, actually, there was a really good, because he's sober, he's super sober, such a babe, such a cool guy. he's a dreamy guy, you know what I mean? He's like, but he said he got sober after Drake's birthday party one year. And he had a massive 3-week hangover, and he just looked at himself in the mirror because he was like sort of in that period of when he wasn't playing a lot of music and stuff, and he looked at himself in the mirror and he said, you know, if you want to get sober, just how much of your potential do you want to have? And just honestly ask yourself that. And if it's like, well, I want to have like 70% of my potential, but then I want to be wasted 30% of the time, or like whatever the percentage share is, that's you, and you can be honest with yourself and own that, and that's fine. But if the answer is 100%, there's only one way to do that. And I think for most people, they want to have 100% of themselves available to succeed and do the things that they love and they're passionate about. So it's such a good question to ask yourself.
Yeah, there's no. I actually saw a meme, a thing on Instagram, and it was like better questions to ask yourself than are you an alcoholic? And it was questions like, do you feel regret the next morning? And I'm sure many people can answer yes to that question.
Yes.
Do you get anxiety when you're hungover? I'm sure a lot of people say yes. There was just all these questions that were not. It wasn't, are you an alcoholic? It was essentially, is alcohol having a negative impact on your life in any way? And it does.
Yeah.
It really does. Hangover alone, you're gonna feel like shit the next day.
Yep.
And it's just kind of what goes with alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's how much are you willing to put up with? And for most people, it's a lot. It's a lot because
how much are you willing to tolerate? And again, it's a lot for some people, and it was a lot for me. A lot. But I finally got it, and I'm not going back.
Yeah. And like, I know you started working on being sober and getting into music and stuff. So how did that change the relationship with your family and with your friends? Like, did you notice any changes? Was there times when you struggled at first? Tell me more about that.
Yeah. I mean, the relationship with my family just went from 0 to 100 because they wouldn't speak to me for about 3 months after that slip, which I understand. I mean, it's really, really hard to watch your sister or your daughter doing that and have no control. So they didn't talk to me for about 3 months, but after that, it just got so much better. My sister and I started chatting again. She's my best friend in the world again. My brothers, we all started chatting. My dad, my mom, it just got so much better.
Yep.
And my friendships became more meaningful. Like I did have to cut a few out,
of course,
due to the nature of the friendship. Like there was just some, like you said earlier, there's some relationships and friendships that you have that are based on alcohol. And I couldn't be around that, right? So I did have to cut a few people out, which was unfortunate, but your sobriety has to come first.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And I don't think you realize that your relationships with certain people are based around alcohol until you cut that out, and you're like, oh, we literally don't do anything but hang out at a bar or hang out at a house and get drunk. And so it's, for a lot of people, it's very hard to be themselves, like a sober person, without having alcohol. I fully appreciate that. I cut. I wouldn't say cut. They just sort of dropped off once people knew that I wasn't like party drunk Tommy anymore. It's just no one wanted to hang out with me really, which is fair. And like, I understand that because I wasn't like Mr. Good Time anymore. I like to stay home. I like to work out. I like to read books. I like to play video games. Like I liked to be very private for the most part. And I didn't realize that I was that person until I stopped drinking. And I was like, the only reason I'm out, the only reason that I go out is so I can get drunk. That's why I'm social. But like, if that's taken away, it's like, I like being home.
Me too.
Yeah.
I love being at home.
Yeah, it's so cozy. And I'm fortunate enough that I had like some, like the relationships that did from the restaurant and bar and nightclub industry, like that did manage to get through me being sober, are so much stronger now, because it's like, man, I'm so appreciative that you respected, and I'm assuming the same for you, hey, like, thank you for respecting my decision and realizing that I'm more than just like a party person, and like we can do stuff, and we want to do stuff to get to know each other better and not just be idiots together all the time.
Yeah, it's about making that effort, and you really see the real ones once you get sober. Because again, like you said, the people who just want you to get drunk and party and be the one who always wants to go out, they do kind of drop off.
Yep.
And the communication becomes less and less frequent, and it sucks. I mean, I really liked the people, but at the same time, I have to come first because I didn't come first for so long, and that's what kept me in alcoholism, right?
I agree. Yep.
So I'm just putting myself first these days.
Good. Well, and you know, it's interesting. I see a lot of the people that I sort of not left behind. That sounds negative, but like chose to go on a different path, I would say, are still doing the same thing that they always did. They're still going to the same bars. They're still doing the same thing every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. And I don't want to say it's negative because I want people to live their life however they do, but it does kind of bum me out because I feel like you should be growing in some way every year, whether it's through a new job or a new skill or a new position or a new relation. Like you don't have to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but like a new connection with, or a strengthened relationship with family or a friend or something, and like
something different, something that's fulfilling.
Yeah, and like to just like, you know, spin the wheel over and over again, and just continue to go to the same bars and do the exact same thing. And you know what? It doesn't feel like the same thing when you're sitting in a bar and you're doing it because it's just, that's part of you. But once you step out, it's like, man, that is like, I could not spend 6 hours in a bar anymore talking about nothing. I get so bored.
Yeah, me too.
You know, it's, yeah. I did have some questions though. This has been flowing so well that we haven't even like asked anything, and it's like, it's perfect. But did you use any recovery resources like Alcoholics Anonymous or any help or anything like that? And I was curious about what that experience was like because I didn't. So.
Yeah, so I'm a member of AA.
Yep.
Very grateful.
Great.
I first went into the rooms prior to my rock bottom, so I kind of went in and out for about a year or so. But AA has been like a consistent resource for me since April 2018, and I have wonderful connections and friends. And with the pandemic too, like you can join Zoom meetings like across the world with people, you know, everywhere, which is awesome. And you can hear so many different perspectives and stories on alcoholism.
Wow.
So yes, member of AA.
And is it, is it something you can talk about, like the experience? Do you like what you guys talk about in the meetings, or is it just sharing stories? Or I don't know how private of a thing it is. Like,
yeah, obviously I'm not going to tell any details
about other people's.
Yeah, essentially, it's the 12 steps.
Yeah.
And depending on what kind of meeting it is, you can do like a big book study, not the Bible, but like an AA big book, which just honestly, like there is a lot of God talk, which at first I was kind of uncomfortable with just because I don't really affiliate with Catholicism per se.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just essentially discovering a higher power and what that means to you. Like just knowing that something out there is bigger than you, because there is. Let's be real.
100%. Yep.
And that's kind of just what it centers on. And you like pick 3 topics per meeting, and you go around and you share your experiences based on that topic. It's just free therapy essentially. Yeah, totally.
Oh, and it is free, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, and I think the important thing for a lot of people is like, they see the religious aspect of AA as almost like a negative or like a stigma sort of thing for people who aren't religious, at least. You know, I'm not super religious anyways, but I think if you can, as you said, take the meaning behind it and apply it to your own belief system, that, you know, yes, there is a higher power, or at least the very core of religion, which is like a set of rules to live by, like be a good person, take care of yourself, take care of others, and know that like the universe is bigger than your personal experience. And I think if you can just see it as that and not take it like literally, then anyone could enjoy AA. Without having to like convert to a religion or anything, you know what I mean?
No, and that's not what they want, and they emphasize that. There's obviously like some members who, you know, push God on you, and there's always going to be people who are trying to push things on you, no matter in AA or not. But you do what works for you, and you work your own program, and I think that the flexibility in that is really, it works for me.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What else? When did you know you made it? Like, when did you feel free from alcohol? Like, when was your big, like, for me, it was 3 months, or like right around the time I went to Steve's wedding. That, for me, that was like my big, like, okay, I do not desire, I'm not battling anymore. I'm not like struggling with it. I'm not worrying about when I might fail.
Right. Christmas.
Okay.
It was about 6 months in. 6 months. It took me a bit to get used to it, and they call it white knuckling. I was kind of just like really, really trying not to drink, you know?
Yep.
And the urge was still there, and the thoughts were still there. But Christmas, because Christmas was always like a really boozy time for our family, as it is for a lot of families. And so I was quite concerned about Christmas, but I made it through sober and happy. And I knew then, I was like, okay, I think you've got this. Because if you made it through Christmas with the Dargans, you can make it through anything.
I can attest to that. I think Christmas is a huge thing too, and I think for my family, because I quit drinking in April, so I'm almost 4 years in like 3 weeks. So, but for my I live in Vancouver, and they still live in Calgary, and so I think that was the first time I got to see my family. And normally at our Christmas dinners, it's like I'm so hungover I can't even eat a full plate of food. You know what I mean? Like I get a full thing, and then I just like eat all the mashed potatoes because they're my favorite, and then I just like nothing else, or maybe the stuffing or something. And so for them that year, and like I always used to just get wasted, and then we'd go out on Christmas Eve and go to like a big Christmas party with all of our old childhood friends. Yeah, and like think like the last year I drank there, I passed out in the mashed potatoes, like literally in the bowl. And then it was just a disaster. So, but the first year I was sober, I came, and because I had been working out so hard and everything, I have a super big appetite now. And I ate like 2 plates of food, like full plates. And my mom almost cried because she's just like, I've never seen you enjoy the food I cooked so much. And like, it makes me so happy to know that like, you're healthy and like you can eat and your stomach's not like, you're not going to get an ulcer from drinking. And it's so great. Like, you know, my mom's love language is definitely gifts and like contributions and stuff like that. And especially Christmas is her like big thing where she likes to go all out. That's the only time she really goes all out for everything. And so to see me eat something that she cooked was just like, I was like, ugh. It made me feel so good, like proud, you know, and to just like make my family proud rather than stress them out or make them worry or you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's such a good feeling. And I got such a better relationship with my family now too. Like I FaceTime my mom every day since I quit drinking, sometimes twice. And, I love it. Yeah. And it's just so good. Okay.
It's freeing.
Yes,
totally
it's
freeing.
exactly. It's and again, that's why I just wish people would see how much more of a person you could be without drinking, how much you can do everything that you are when you're drinking, you can still do that plus more. Next question. What type of, this is a deep one. What type of person did you discover you were? Did you find that like drunk Kristina is different than sober Kristina, other than in like the obvious way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Drunk Kristina is very mean, and she's very combative, and she's, you know, I say she because it's quite the opposite of me sober. Me sober, I would say I do love spending time at home. I'm more of an introvert. I need alone time every day to recharge, but I'm also an extrovert. And when I go out, I'm very loud, and I'm bubbly, and I love hanging out with my friends and stuff. And yeah, you know, extrovert introvert is how I would describe myself.
Cool.
Just kind of combined, because while drinking, I could not be alone whatsoever.
Yep.
Like I couldn't. It would make me so incredibly uncomfortable that I'd end up going out and going to some random bar, whatever. But you know, sober, I'm comfortable being alone, and I kind of find solace and therapeutic value in being alone. And I love it. Good. I love it, and I don't apologize for it. You know, obviously sometimes people want me to come out a little bit more, but you know, I now am a person who doesn't allow others to influence what I do. I just kind of know what's good for me, and I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I do that. Good. Am I a little bit too stubborn, perhaps? But
me too.
You know, it's a journey, and it's not, sobriety doesn't make you perfect. Progress, not perfection. You know, it's definitely a journey, and you're going to continue to grow and learn. But I'm still on that journey. So
Good. Yeah, and
very happy with who I am right now. Yeah.
as you should be. Yeah. I think just from one thing you said there is like, I think for me at least, and I don't know if you felt the same way, but like you touched upon like how your friends want you to come out more, that type of thing. They always, and I think there's that for me, that feeling of like letting my friends down, initially at least, that was a challenge for me. It was like I always felt bad about saying no to go out. I was like, all right, well then I'll just go out, so then I don't feel bad and like whatever. And
Yeah.
that's a thing for a lot of people, I think, is that they have either like FOMO, like missing out for their own enjoyment, but also letting their like friends down. And you sort of realize that like, the people who invite you out all the time, they'll always be there and they'll always be invite you out, because
Yeah.
they want everyone to be out because they're social, and that's okay. But like saying no to them isn't gonna like, their night's not going to get destroyed. They're not going to go home because you're not
No.
there. They're going to do their own thing, and like, you're not letting them down in the slightest. They just want you there because they're your friend. But they'll, at least, the good people, they will always be your friend.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you say no a million times. If you say yes once and then you catch up, like you haven't lost any time at all.
Well, yeah, and I think that for especially people in recovery, it is so important to set healthy boundaries and to say no when you are uncomfortable, because that people-pleasing mentality, that guilt that you feel when you say no, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, no. Say no if you're uncomfortable. Say no if it's not the right decision for you. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah.
Just be true to yourself and do what's in your own, limits.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I know. I totally know the feeling, and I think there's just, I wish I wish there was a way to let people experience being in their 20s and 30s without drinking so much. Like I don't think it's logical to say like change the drinking age to a much higher age, because that's just stupid. But I wish, because there's such formative years where you don't know who you are and you're trying to find out who you are, and the way to do that is by being out and like making mistakes and meeting people and meeting the wrong people and meeting the right people and choosing who to influence your life. And for most, I would say 95% of kids, at least living in North America, are all our sort of culture of growing up. It involves a lot of drinking, like especially going to post-secondary school and high school and all of that. It becomes a part of who you are. And I wish there was a way to not have that, to just like, and you know what I mean? And on the one hand, like, I just wish people could see what it was like a little bit, so they could find out who they are a little bit faster, rather than like wasting all of this time finding out that you're not that person that you've built up over 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of drinking. You're a completely different person who's a lot more like the person you were before you started drinking. Like that inner sense of who you are doesn't really change. You know what I mean? Like I find there's a lot of stuff that I enjoyed as a young kid in junior high, like before partying and stuff, and I still enjoy all that stuff, and I'm still that person. And there's a big chunk of time when I was in like high school and after that I wouldn't trade for the world, because it made me who I am, and I think I'm much more confident because of it. But at the same time, I just wish people had a chance to see what their 20s were like, because it's such a formative part of your life.
It's true.
Yeah.
And it is unfortunate that I don't think that the drinking culture is going anywhere.
No, God, no.
But all we can do, I think, is just continue to pass along the message.
Yeah.
And, help people who want help. But yeah, I do agree with you. It's unfortunate, especially since your brain doesn't actually fully develop until you're 25 years old.
Yeah.
So.
And by then it's 25 is the prime time. Like that's when I was drinking the most.
So
but
it's interesting, but
I think you're right in saying though that like there's a lot more hope for people now who maybe are interested. Like I think there's a lot more young people drinking less nowadays than there was before, because there was no resources, there was no communities there was no Reddits, there was no Discord servers of sober people, there was no people shouting from the rooftops like, I'm sober, I did this, here's my story. And now all you have to do is type sober in Instagram and you can get hundreds of pages of people sharing their stories. And like that stuff for me, knowing that you're not alone in your struggles is such an important thing of like finding a community or even just one other person that can help you through that journey and say, it's okay, I know what it's like is huge. So I think it's,
profound, and
yeah.
it can change somebody's situation completely.
Yeah.
I feel really fortunate to have gotten sober in this time, because I know when I was growing up, like alcoholic was like a shh word.
Yep.
Addiction in general was, you don't talk about it.
Yep.
It's a huge stigma. We don't want to talk about addiction, and times are changing, and I feel really glad to be going through this in this time.
Yep.
So
I agree. What are your final question? Because we're just past 9 o'clock. What are your plans for the future? But anything else you want to say? You free platform.
Yeah, you know what? Just that my life did a complete 180. I'm just finishing up my master's in counseling psych right now. And I have my practicum in September. And then once I'm done that, I'll register as a provisional psychologist in Alberta, and I'll open my own practice. And by the time I'm 35, I would like to be Dr. Kristina Dargan.
Look at that. And that's such an amazing place to be at. And I don't think that it would be tough to get to where you are and have those plans to even see through the fog of the future without being sober.
No, I don't even know where I'd be if I didn't get sober. I would not be here.
Yeah.
That's not even a question. But
cool. Well, Dr. Kristina Dargan, thank you so much. This was so awesome. I feel like our talks just got better and better and better throughout.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you so much for coming on. Thanks everybody who's watching. I'll have this posted on Monday. Be happy, guys. Everybody say bye to Kristina. Oh, before we leave, is there any questions that anyone has? Anything like that? I can answer them quick. If anybody wanted to say anything or that, we'll just wait a sec.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's okay if you don't either. Cool. Okay, no questions. I think we covered it all. Thanks so much, Kristina. Guys, I will see you guys on my next stream. Be happy. Have a good one.